Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witness, the Assistant Secretary, for being here today. The topics you deal with are some that I've been concerned about for the better part of a decade. Specifically, the issue of ownership of key agricultural equities like land and infrastructure by foreign adversaries has continued to raise alarm bells across the country. That's why I introduced the Bipartisan Agricultural Risk Review Act to add the Secretary of Agriculture as a permanent member of CFIUS for any transaction relating to the ag industry and require CFIUS to initiate reviews of threats notified by USDA. Our annual appropriation bills have recognized the need for this language, but we must cement this practice into law. Mr. Secretary, USDA has committed to working across agencies to ensure sensitive ag equities aren't controlled by foreign adversaries. Can you provide Treasury's perspective? How does CFIUS benefit from the Secretary of Agriculture's input? And would it be helpful for the Secretary to be a permanent member for transactions related to ag?
Congressman, thank you very much for that question. So under the Consolidated Appropriations Act, the USDA Secretary is a member of the Committee for Ag-related Transactions. And I can tell you that Secretary Rollins is in the room for those conversations. Her staff is very engaged. Deputy Secretary Vaden, I've met with both of them and spent time with them because I know this is an incredibly important issue to them, as it is to Secretary Besant. In fact, Secretary Besant and Secretary Rollins signed a memorandum of understanding last year to enhance focus on agricultural land, biotech transactions, transportation, storage, and processing. And Secretary Rollins often says food security is national security, and I certainly agree with that, and her leadership has been very important. So I look forward to working with them very closely on these issues, as well as getting their insight and leadership.
My bill preserves CFIUS's case-by-case approach to ensure that the United States retains a friendly investment climate. Can you expand on Treasury's efforts to attract investment without compromising national security?
Thank you very much for the question. So I think one example of that under the America First investment policy is the known investor program, trying to ensure that we get more information up front so that when we're making these decisions when the capital is coming through, we have more information about the underlying transaction and the investors. We're also going to be traveling the country and spending time with various communities to ensure folks are aware of CFIUS, aware of the program, aware of the process, and we'll be doing more roundtables and conferences associated with that, and then work very closely with our partners at Commerce and State who have an international investment mission of bringing FDI back into the United States.
Secretary, we have a patchwork of state laws across the country dealing with the issue of foreign adversary ownership of ag equities. How is the Treasury Department thinking about the interplay between the various state laws and our federal regulations?
Thank you very much for the question, and it's an important one. We work closely with our state partners in implementing our process. And one of the things that I want to be able to do during my tenure as Assistant Secretary is to ensure that state legislators and state chambers of commerce in particular are aware of CFIUS, its role, and its jurisdiction. I can only execute on the laws that this Congress has passed, but I think that information sharing, certainly at a high level, but just understanding processes will be very good for those relationships and hope to close the loop here.
In Oklahoma, under state law, we have some very strong language dealing with these kind of issues. My state authorities are very enthusiastic about enforcing that. A lot of times they have to be made aware of what's going on in order for them to enforce state law. So this sharing of information is critically important.
With that's an invitation I humbly accept, sir.
Absolutely. With that, Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. You have perhaps one of the most critical roles when it comes to the future of the economy of this country. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.